because yesterday I hadn't spoke to Jimmy in some time, and I was doing my usual, trying to do 5 things at once, get the kind of show ready, get logged into the network, get Skype sorted, as you do, and Discord and everything else going off all at once. And Jimmy's telling me, Kev, I found this really, really, really interesting thread on Atlantis, Atlantean technology, hidden history, maybe lost races, Antarctica, and it's all kind of interwoven with really cool woo and science. Now, at the time, I knew, I was far too busy to really dive into this at any great length with Jimmy. But it was always in the back burner. It was in the head up here. So today, when John contacted me and I found out we couldn't do tonight's show, I thought, well, there you go. Voila. Voila. Tonight we can talk about this piece of information that Jimmy's come across. Because I don't know, when it comes to Atlantis, Antarctica, all of these types of topics, there's definitely a lot to get into. So, Jimmy, let me come to you, man. Tell people how you came across this, and then we can start wherever you want. We've got a full 2 hours here, dude. We can dive right in. But where did you find it, and who are we kind of getting into here?
All right. Well, so I'll give you a little bit of background. So, a lot of times what I do on my lunch break or when I'm sitting down eating lunch is I go on these boards and I scroll through pages and pages of posts. And I do it just mostly to read the titles of the posts, to see how insane people are. It's basically a way to take the temperature and to sort of see what the real trends are, what storylines are taking off in the LARP. It's a good place to go because you can see the storylines develop from the very first moment or inception. And you can see those things develop and reverberate out through the alternative media. So even though, most of what you see there isn't even worth your time of the day, occasionally you'll see something and it'll be a seductive enough character, Kev, to get you to click on it. I mean, there's something that you're just going to be there that you just cannot resist. And I mean, I would say without a doubt, this would be a really good place to data scrape and find individuals, you know what I mean? So let me just say, by clicking on stuff on any of these websites and then clicking on links that are provided to you inside the threads, I would highly recommend that you think twice before you click on anything, because a lot of these links that are set up in here, they're set up specifically to entrap you into a Trojan horse type situation when you click on it. So typically, I don't click on links in here too much. So this thread caught my eye. So because it's something that's interesting, just simply because there's this continent that disappeared, and there's so much lore about it, right? And so this Antarctica is Atlantis is the title of this thread, and it says, I am happy to answer any non-military questions regarding the Antarctic colony and its peoples. So I mean, that was a seductive enough character.
That's a pretty good opening. I mean, that's a pretty. It would have had me gripped at that point as well, Jimmy. Yes.
All right. Well, do you want me to read
the very
definitely,
dude. Yeah, go for it, man.
The very first section of the introduction. So it says, this may be hard to understand or grasp at first, but if you take some time to consider the facts, you will come to the conclusion that there is a vast cavern under the ice in Antarctica. In the 1930s, members of what would become the National Socialist Party were on a quest to find more information regarding what they believed was an advanced civilization that existed before our current recorded history. My great-grandmother was a member of a society of gifted females who used mental, then later technological means to communicate with humans that claimed to have colonized the Al Aldebaran star system. I think it's the same one as.
Okay, right. Let's pause there, right? Because first of all, we've got the vast cavern. Now,
Hmm.
I remember Richard Allen Miller coming onto the show, and he talked about his time when he was basically, I like to call it like he was working on the X-File team. Actually, isn't too far from the truth when you think about it, because he was like working on the science for the kind of military-industrial complex. He was kicking about with people like Timothy Leary and people like this, and really quite connected. And when he talked about his time down there, he told me about the submarine bases, or at least the multiple berth base submarine that's on Antarctica. And he also, at the time, one of the first times we spoke to him, he talked about how he was showing this absolutely vast chasm like hole. And at the time, we're going back to maybe a good few decades now, maybe 50s, 60s. I don't want to put a kind of, probably more 60s, 70s. I'll get Jimmy to touch on that in a moment. But not quite the technology that we have today, obviously. Now, you fast forward to what was happening a few years ago when we had Buzz Aldrin, John Kerry, at the height of campaigning during an election campaign. We had the head of the Russian Orthodox Church going down to Antarctica. And that's just some of the people that we know about. And they were quite public about that. And there's a whole lot of rumours about other people. And I'm sure some of them did go, maybe some didn't. But what was the attraction? Well, one of the subsequent shows I done with Doc Miller, as we call him, Miller Time, great character. He speculated, and he was very, very emphatic about the fact he didn't know for sure, but he thought maybe, maybe they found a way to get down that hole. Perhaps they've recovered what's in there. Something along those lines. And when he was talking about Antarctica and when he was down there, he talked about that bad guys from World War II submarine base. And it's interesting, Jimmy, because whoever wrote this, they talk about their grandmother being a member of a society of gifted females. And when you look into the Nazi story, they were getting a lot of their information, especially the occulted wackadoodle stuff, from a bunch of Czechs who were in communication with off-world entities. And I think some called them the Vril. But they were the Thule or Thule Society.
Yeah.
It sounds like this guy, whoever it is, his grandmother, was connected, right?
Yeah, that's what it's sounding like. It's his it's his great grandmother.
I know far too much speculation about Antarctica. It's scary. This is going to be a good show, Jimmy. It is.
Yeah, I think so too. Because I honestly, I've thought about this over the years, many times. I've thought about, this specifically, like what's under that ice, that kind of thing. And actually, there's a chunk later on here that describes some of what they were doing, what they did, and the thing that seduced me originally too is, I'm a firm believer that what we see as far as the ships and all that stuff is inner Earth. And I mean, that's always what I've thought. I've never thought they were coming from far, far away. And so a lot of what he talks about, or he doesn't even say it's a he or she. The name on the thread is from the person's from New Zealand, and it's Antarctican.
Well, Jimmy, what we'll do is, right, because there's a lot of stuff to get into here, but we'll kind of break it up. We'll do like a segment each, so I'll hand it back to you. And we'll get the rest of this story about this, the grandmother, the society, and I think you were just about to take it from there, just after there.
Yeah, and so this is basically the opening thing where this person posted this and said they would answer questions. So they posted this, and then a bunch of people answered questions, and then the person comes back and answers a bunch of the questions. So we can slip after we get done with this. We can slip over to the other section. So here we go. So these humans stated that they were. You want me to? Let me back up. So his grandmother was a member of the Society of Gifted Females who used mental and then later technological means to communicate with humans
That sounds like
these hu-
that sounds like some kind of feminist activist group, doesn't it? Like some woke group. The group of what do they call them there? Um, yeah, the Society of Gifted Females.
the feminists.
Yeah, it'd be a good name for one of these woke groups over on Twitter, though, wouldn't it?
Oh, there you go.
There you go. See.
Well, okay, so these humans stated that they were originally from Earth, and they were directed to lead Earth out of its current dark age, and back into an age of prosperity and abundance. They stated we used to be a great civilization, but had fallen. The ETs directed this society in many technological principles, mainly the extraction of free energy from space-time using torsion generators and negative space. See that sentence right there? When I was reading this, that was the sentence right there that made me want to keep reading it beyond, thinking this is just, some, threat or whatever. So I'm going to read that again. The ETs directed the society in many technological principles, mainly the extraction of free energy from space-time using torsion generators and negative space. They also directed the contactees to go to Antarctica, and that was where the proof of our civilization lies. So Antarctica is Atlantis. Many expeditions were sent to Antarctica, National Socialists. It was discovered that underneath kilometers of ice, volcanic activity had carved an immense cavern, some kilometers high and the size of entire small nations. Many artifacts were discovered, and many abandoned pieces of technology were found and reverse engineered. A colony was then established, and a colony to which the great-grandparents, who were Hanubu scientists for the SS at this point, were sent. So some sort of Hanubu scientists for the SS, for the Nazis, were sent. My grandparents and my mother.
I think that was their flying discs, allegedly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, there you go. My grandparents and my mother were raised in this colony, which is now a nation of several 100,000 people. My mother was a civilian Antarctican and had been allowed to travel to the surface world in order to see the flaws/benefits of the surface system and to choose whether she would rather stay or go back. It is almost opposite of Amish Rumspringa, as where she is from, technology is far more advanced, and thanks to the mastery of electrogravitics, vril, energy is abundant, and there is no scarcity. She chose to stay after meeting my father, a Scottish mason in South Africa, where I was born. I am happy to answer any non-military questions regarding the Antarctic colony and its peoples, as well as their current way of life and technological capabilities. I will ignore all negative posts.
So is this person claiming to be a citizen of the Antarctic colony today?
Let me see here. Let me roll back on this here.
It seems that way, right? She chose to stay after my father, so she stayed there, right? Yep. And he was born in South Africa, or she was born in South Africa.
Yeah, she chose to stay after meeting my father, a Scottish mason in South Africa. So must be the child of the Scottish mason and the woman who's. Is it her or great grandmother? I don't know. I'm not sure. But anyway,
this is pretty interesting, right? Because we know that there was definitely the submarine base, right? I mean, we know that they had great interest in what was going on down there. Was it New Schwabesland, or New Schwabesland, something like that? But if they had that down there, and we know the stories that we've talked about, at the heart of it, there must have been personnel. There would have to have been people, permanent personnel. I remember in the signals, we used to laugh and joke, but tongue-in-cheek joke, because it'd be like a punishment posting. They would send you to the Falkland Islands. The Falkland Islands is like not a kick in the bum away from Antarctica. And they would call that, they would literally call that like the punishment postings with the penguins. Because you were stuck down there for 6 months at the bottom end of the world with nothing to do. But my point being that where there's military activity, there's got to be personnel that go there to man the place. I know man isn't very politically correct. They person the place, right? But
Well, it
so
sounds like
there's
they
got
were
to be
hot.
somebody down there. So if there's somebody at some point, Jimmy, you'd think that there's some lineage, that there's going to be people, their grandparents were down there.
Oh yeah, they're down there right now. They're there. They're still there. I mean, and apparently they're living in a world where there is no scarcity. So hey, I just dropped that next section in there.
Well,
no one
I've
got.
got the web page up here, so I'll
Oh,
take
you do?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Sorry about that, bro. I didn't know. Go
No,
ahead.
I've got it here.
So,
So it
yes.
says that. So the next bit it says, I'm just going to make sure this is the same person. Yeah, it is, I think. Yeah, it is. So it says, Antarctica is Atlantis. I'm happy to answer any non-military questions regarding the Antarctic colony and its peoples. It says, when you cause a charged liquid material to rotate in a vortex, it promotes an incredible static standing wave energy that can be used to charge the entire outer hull of the craft. Now, we've often talked about the bell and the rumoured circulating of red mercury, counter-rotating streams of red mercury. So this here, this vortex type physics, type mathematics, that's a real thing. So the standing wave, this is how I take it they're explaining how it works. And it says, think ionic breeze. It is a personal magnetosphere around the craft. Now, this amount of energy replaces the Earth plasma field of the Earth that you are normally enveloped in. And it forms its own gravitational field. Now, you have absolutely no sense of movement on the craft. In fact, from inside, all you see is an image change on a screen. And you step out into a new reality. Now, I know you're throwing your hands up in the air there, Jimmy, but granted, we have to take this as what it is. It's an anonymous source on a forum. Now, I like the woo, but we can't ever lose sight of the fact where it's coming from. But with that said, we'll now woo over what it's saying here, right? So it's basically saying that they've got this craft. There's no effects of inertia, anything like that. Sounds pretty cool, dude. And when you look at the Tic Tac videos and the To the Stars Academy videos that you see, there's something that we can see something. Now, those type of crafts are displaying the kind of stuff that this is talking about there. I'm not saying it's one and the same, but I'm saying that there's definitely physical evidence that we can look at with our eyes that seems to match up with what this is talking about. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you know the reason
See,
that
Jimmy thought I was going to rip it apart and absolutely debunk this, but I'm going to go with it, dude. It's Wednesday on KBS.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
See, the thing is, I don't see the thing about it is it's no different than any other storyline. It's no different than any other thing that's written in a book. You know what I mean? It's just
Well, I would argue with that because at least in a book, you can have references and cliff notes and like where it starts talking here about like what it does, like the Earth plasma field. In books, a reputable book would have a kind of source and maybe a scientific paper. So again, though.
well, here's the thing. This is why I get excited because while I was putting my hands up because, I mean, to me that explanation right there makes pretty damn good sense. I mean, it makes sense with what I think. As well as what I think about the Earth and the magnetosphere, and it aligns with a lot of other things that I just think personally based on other stuff. and as you get further down onto this, I'm just gonna wait until you're done, because there's some other stuff there's some other stuff in here that's really, really kind of neat, man. So I dig it from the principle standpoint, man. It doesn't have to be real, but it very well could be.
Jimmy's all in. He's all in. I'm gonna catch up with him here. It says only from the outside are the actual movements of the craft through space-time apparent. The craft is turned into a plasma itself, which is then magnetically confined by the magnetosphere. Pretty cool. The charge of the Vortex implosion engine can be vibrated at any frequency, and magnetic confinement can be used at the nanometer scale. All colors are simply a frequency. For instance, when we vibrate the craft at 630 nanometers, this activates the corresponding cones in the human eye that are interpreted as red. Now, if we vibrate the craft in an electromagnetic 960 nanometers, this is below what the human eye can see, and it's invisible. We'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Kev Baker Show live right here on TFRlive.com. And I've got Jimmy Jeans here with me today, and we are getting into some, let me just say, unverifiable but very, very interesting information. Now, Jimmy came across this on Godlike Productions, and you know me, folks, in recent years I have been very outspoken about any information that comes from unknown, unnamed 17th letter of the alphabet sources, right? And that's why when you hear me talking today, you'll be thinking that Kev Baker sounds like a cynical little bugger. Sounds like he's trying to almost debunk everything Jimmy's saying. And it's not that at all. It's not that at all. It's just that in the back of my mind, I hear all the people that I do work with trying to uncover some of the grifters out there, and they'll all be sitting there laughing going, but Kev, look, you're talking about the same stuff. So let me just say before we dive back into this, I fully appreciate we can't verify where this information came from, but we're the #1 abnormal paranormal show, not just in this world but many others as well. And for that reason, that's why I can hold two opposing thoughts at the same time. A, that this is probably, likely, unfortunately, something we'll never be able to verify. But at the very same time, I'm able to dive right into it with my good man Jimmy Jeans here, and we are going to get right back into Antarctica, dude. And I had to say that, Jimmy. I had to say that because you know the kind of stuff John, Lee talk about, the people I go after. You know, I had to put it out there because they'll be going, Kev Baker, look at you. Clickbaiting on Antarctica.
You can just blame it on old Jimmy, man.
I will.
That's what everybody does. If you just go, hey, Jimmy, and then people just go, okay, man.
I will. I'll blame it on you. No, I think this makes for a good conversation, though. So now that I've got that caveat out the way, we can go back down the cosmic, icy rabbit hole of Antarctica.
Right, there's so many. There's so many things that tie to this story. So
you're taking the next segment. You're on the next segment anyway, dude.
You got to reread that because no one heard that.
It's just a little bit that it says if we vibrate the craft in an electromagnetic 960 nanometers, this is below what the human eye can detect. So the craft would not be seen. It would be invisible. So yes.
Right. So that makes sense so look, here's it has nothing to do with this thread, but let's throw this into the mix. Let's pour some gasoline on this fire. Let's add to the LARP. Okay. Here now. So if it's invisible to the eye because it vibrates at a frequency and becomes a spectrum of light that the human eye cannot perceive. Then when you get these dudes that are looking up in the sky with these night vision goggles, and all of a sudden they're seeing a whole bunch of stuff up there, man. And so that's a part of the spectrum that you don't see without those glasses, right? So the thing is maybe there is platforms in space vibrating at a frequency using these same principles that are being displayed right here. Like maybe this is just, maybe if you're in the business of floating the New Jerusalem up in space, this is common talk, man.
I'm going to be doing a couple of videos, I think, on the New Jerusalem and quantum stuff. I found some stuff today that blew my mind.
I bet you did.
but no, like you're talking about there, and I've watched some of the videos where people absolutely they're catching things on infrared, usually the third generation military night vision goggles, or a more modern type apparatus. I've also seen some videos where, like Jimmy said there, sounds bizarre, but they're almost like, for lack of a better term, space platforms. The kind of thing that you would come across in games, computer games like No Man's Sky. Kind of things you would see in Star Wars. And they ain't even all that far out from the planet. I know it's hard to tell when you're looking through night vision goggles and it's just a little bit in the sky, but they're not out past Mars. They're closer to here than anywhere else. So what are they? And why is it you can't see them with the naked eye? So, no, absolutely, I'm with you, Jimmy. And you got to... or at least I always remind people of Gary McKinnon, fellow Scotsman. And he was going to be potentially looking at 80 years, in the region of 80 years hard time in America for doing what? For not even breaking into the computer system. Because he was trying to look for evidence of UFOs like anyone back when the internet was just starting out, dial-up modem. Well, the dreams of being hackers and getting into the Bernays sauce, the super secret stuff. Well, he had the wherewithal to actually get connected to a terminal at NASA. And he got in, and I say he didn't even have to hack it because the password was, remember in the days when it was just password? Hardly hacking when you do that. And he talked of terrestrial and non-terrestrial officers. Now, he wasn't talking about Martians or Venusians. He was talking about military personnel that were not based terrestrially. They were non-terrestrial. They were off-world. So if it was just crap that he was making up, why would the American government have gone to all the lengths of trying to extradite him? It was like a last-minute kind of plea deal that got him off with it all. A guy with Asperger's. He's never gone on to sell like a whole raft of books. He's never made up new stories to add to the original thing that he came out with. No LARPing from him. In fact, he just disappeared. Didn't say anything much more about it. Probably done a deal in reality. But there's something that they don't want people finding out about. And Jimmy, who knows? This is the thing. Sometimes I could be too cynical. And I could be throwing information out and it's hidden right there in plain sight. And because I've become so cynical, man, I'm missing the super secret Bernays sauce. So, let's get back into it, man.
Yeah, could be. But I mean, the thing is that this is exactly how something could happen. If somebody knew something and they were going to release something, they're not going to come out and go, hey, I'm a big whistleblower, or read my book, or see my video, click on my YouTube. Because if you're really revealing something, man, and you just, for whatever reason inside of you just feel the need, man, I'm just gonna go on one of these threads and tell people what's really going on. You know what I mean? That could happen anytime. I mean, but that's like going to Hollywood and waiting for a phone call, that's gonna come for you to be in a movie or something. You know what I mean? So that's not really real, but who knows? This has got my attention, and it did the other day.
Let's get on to the next bit, man. Let's do it. Right. Let's get on to the next segment.
The next thing he goes into, and I don't know why he jumped into this immediately after this invisible vibrating electromagnetic.
Because he can. Because he's a genius savant from the inner earth.
So it says counteracting thought-based directed energy weapons. Thought-based energy weapons, directed energy weapons, can be disabled using the standing wave field against them. Your own brain creates thought form reality.
Well, now he's talking my kind of language.
Focus on moving the energy from the surrounding air through your body and concentrate it in your solar plexus.
That's like tapping into your chi, right? That's like your, yep.
When you feel it is full of energy, picture it flowing out of your body and into a clear crystal sphere directly in front of your chest. Visualize this crystal sphere is full of this energy, packing in tighter and tighter, getting hotter and hotter until it ignites with fury. Now visualize yourself sending this thought form back through the standing wave to the sending unit and disabling it. So apparently this has something to do with being a targeted individual. Thought form directed energy weapons. So apparently he is letting us know how to counteract or counterbalance that energy.
I know Nano Girl always used to say to me, if you were like putting up protection or something like that, picture violet light. That's a protective type light as well. And you think of that, think of your brain picturing that. Think of you trying to imagine that colour. That colour's a what? It's a frequency. Your brain's a what? It's an electrical system. You're producing electromagnetic waves that are carrying that same frequency of thought of the colour that you're thinking about. I don't even know what that means, but it's good woo. But it goes on to say here, right? How about some of that free energy, right? That's somebody else because it's a different ID. We're looking for the last two numbers, or the last three numbers are 311.
And look for OP in parentheses.
Yep.
It's way down there, but while you're getting to it, let me give a counterpoint. So here's some. Let me just say, ladies and gentlemen, the people on here that are skeptical, they're not being polite like Kev is right now. If you put something on here, they will shred you to pieces, man. And it is the most darkly sarcastic stuff on the face of the earth, because these are all people that have been around this website for 20 years or whatever. They've seen it all come and go. But okay, so listen, this guy says, and this is what a lot of people are probably saying too. So that's why I want to read it. Absolute BS. Plato was very specific about Atlantis location in the Atlantic. It was a series of islands that sank over a period spanning tens of thousands of years, with the final portion sinking around 9600 BC in the area where Bimini is currently located.
The Bimini Road, that's an interesting thing, man.
Yeah, so he says Atlantis, so the incarnation with Atlantis has a long history. All of the Atlantis and Antarctica theories are a steaming pile of excrement. I'll just use that word. So this guy doesn't like the thread, but later on that he comes back. And,
well, forget the haters, because I've got the guy's next post. I found it here. Right. So his next post is super interesting, and for people who listen to this show, you are going to absolutely love this, because he gets asked a question at some point, and yes, I've decided it's a he.
Excuse me, it's ma'am.
Okay, it could be either, but they get asked a question at some point. And it says, the question was, another name for thought form is Tulpa. I have created some thought forms that interact in some positive and some negative ways, unintentionally. With the changing magnetic field, and field interactions is also changing, and things like tulpas are becoming more common among the uninitiated, hence we don't know we make them. Can you tell us any advanced techniques not known on the surface to open up your awareness to the interaction field. Now, again, I'm going to go back to Richard Allen Miller. And if you remember one of the later shows, or one of the more recent shows we done with him, I keep on quoting what he said. And it went along the lines of men need to be really responsible and take responsibility for their own thoughts. And that's literally what this is tapping into here, because the thoughts we have, they're not merely just thoughts anymore. And what I mean is we're living in a time now where either we've increased in our psi, our chi, our energy when we're transmitting these thoughts, or maybe the space time that we're in right now is more conducive to thought form engineering, if we can even call it that. But like they said here, we're not even aware we're doing it, but we're sending thoughts and energy out there that's literally having measurable effects in the real world. So it says here, and this is the advice it gives, it's very important that you filter the water you drink and shower in, and avoid fluoridated foods. Fluoride promotes cataracts of the electromagnetic rods and cones in the pineal gland. Advanced techniques include the ability to visualize energy in its correct form as it moves. Energy moves in a 3D or multi-dimensional toroid pattern or potential, with the potentiated thought form in the central part. So, thought forms, Jimmy, tulpas. I've been talking about this on the show for ages. You know, the thoughts we have, how powerful they are. And you get people thinking in unison. It doesn't matter how far apart you're separated geographically. You almost instantly sync up. It's like you are connected, entangled, you know?
Yeah, man. I mean, this, this touches on a lot of things, a lot of discussions, that we've had right here on your show about a lot of these topics that are kind of, it's kind of encompassing some of the same things. And there was another piece in here where a guy brought up, he said, something about, hang on a second. He said, hey, it sounds like Victor Schumann's perpetual tornado / anti-gravity work back in the 30s and 40s. So when we come back after the break, I dug this up and I'll pass this over to you on the break, because I got something here that I think you're going to enjoy. It is the dynamic theory of gravity.
Well, that sounds very technical. Let's stick to this rabbit hole we're in right now, Jimmy, because this is, yeah, the next one here, and it says, right, it's quoting his original post, and somebody's asking, when did you move from South Africa to New Zealand? Is it true that South Africa is experiencing a brain drain? Educated people with the means to do so leaving South Africa in droves, mainly for Australia, New Zealand and Canada. I understand that there are some communities in Western Australia that are upwards of 1/3 South African. What do you know about this? And what did you like about South Africa? And what didn't you like? How do you like New Zealand? So it says, I haven't been in New Zealand long and was only in South Africa for several years after birth. We belong to many countries and do not stay anywhere long. Yes, it would appear that South Africa is yet another country in a state of greed-induced despair. So to me it sounds like I've not been in New Zealand long, and it talks about they don't stay anywhere long. Sounds like from time to time they probably go back to the inner Antarctic. This is bizarre, dude. So again, it's quoting this, and it says, nice. This rings true with me, and the fact that you immediately touched a nerve with someone who doesn't want anyone to know. And that must be the cheeky poster that Jimmy's talking about. And the guy who's making the post says there are many who do not want others to know. All information that has been hidden has been compiled and will be released eventually. I have nothing to do with that. However, I do have 3 generations of compiled understanding of the world and universe for what it really is. And it says, Op, are you still there? Also, this crystal charge you spoke of, could you elaborate further on it? Because it sounds familiar. Thank you. I spoke of visualizing a crystal sphere to fill with energy. It's simply a way to visualize a complicated process. Regarding crystals, most of our technology is based on crystals that are growing in specific standing wave chambers in order to impart specific qualities and responsiveness in each. A crystal is a 3D representation of an underlying electromagnetic field. Wow. So
Boom.
somebody, that's pretty cool, Jimmy. Yep, crystals, man.
I know, and they're grown, right?
Yeah.
So they're grown in these standing wave caverns or whatever. And when you you think about when you go underground, you see some of these stalactites and some of these growing things that are in some of these caverns that you can go into. This is amazing information. Like I said,
I'll squeeze this last one in here because
oh, this one here.
well, yeah, it's that
The
short
next
one.
one.
We'll probably get a couple, but it says here, is there any way to contact them or go to this place? And they're talking about the inner Antarctic, the inner Earth, this place, Atlantis, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
You may only travel there using a means that is non-internal combustion. You may contact the Antarcticians? Antarcticans?
Yeah.
And many other. I'm trying to give them a brand new spooky, woo-filled name, Jimmy. And many other ET races using an entanglement conveyor, a type of instant communicator that uses a laser and penning traps to read-write the quantum state of an entangled particle. So they're talking about a communication device that has a laser and penning traps to read-write the quantum state of an entangled particle. So if you've got entangled particles, that's what they're working on right now in China. And the Department of Energy, they've got the quantum internet that's using entangled particles right now. So, yep.
Plus, let me just rewind like 4 minutes ago when you were talking about people being able to communicate to each other over vast differences, and you said they were entangled somehow.
Yep.
There you go. Entanglement conveyor belt.
So it says, I'm happy to help you build one. I have the knowledge if you have the means. This applies to any technology I mention here. I will assist with construction if you have the means. Astral travel is prevented by multi-dimensional shielding. Only the invite may astrally travel to Antarctic nation. So even if you're like remote viewing or trying to, like it says, astral travel, it's going to be almost like an ethereal firewall. Like the Black-Eyed Kids, you ain't getting in unless you get an invite, right? You're almost like a vampire. You need an invite to get into their crypt, man.
Doesn't it make sense? Because Admiral Byrd, he had that elongated skull.
Yeah.
And that's the reason I think they talk about Admiral Byrd in here at some point.
We'll definitely get some. If not, I'm going to squeeze one more in. You've got me now, Jimmy. You've got me.
All right.
You've got me.
Excellent.
So it says here, will work in Atlantis for food. So somebody said, just feed me and I'll be your slave. So it says people in Antarctic nation do not work for food. Scarcity is unknown to our people. We have unlimited access to all resources. New matter can be created from hydrogen out in fusion reactors, and scarcity is something imposed on the surface to keep you struggling. In fact, the entire surface population could be supported in a city the size of Texas, and the food could be aquaponically grown in a Florida-sized space. While this is obviously not practical, it's just an example of how the surface has been fooled into thinking that they have overpopulated and must be cold. There are more than enough resources on the surface to provide every man, woman, and child with food, clothing, healthcare, housing, education, and a quality of life. The resources are hoarded by the wealthy. It is an interesting system, one I find flawed. Very flawed indeed. And he's right, or she's right.
Excuse me, it's ma'am.
How dare you?
They do dare, though, Greta. The 1% that you unwittingly act as a stooge for, Greta, are the ones that are hoarding everything. And you might think that you're their darling and you're going to go on and be the queen of the eco world, right? Right? Wrong. They despise you as much as they despise us as well. You ain't in their club. Using a child to front up their grab for more and to leave us. Oh, don't worry though, we'll all be sustainable, right? Yes, indeedy. So, Jimmy, we're going to come back into this on the other side, man. Very good stuff. Where do we go? Where do we apply? How do I get the astral invite to get through the firewall?
The Antarctican. Yeah, I mean...
No, the Antarctician. I made up an entirely new race of people, dude. That's like cool.
Yeah, man, and I'll tell you what. The thing about it is this guy's coming back every day and answering questions from the day before.
Well, we try and get him on the show, man. You have to get him on the show, Jimmy.
Oh, okay, I could try.
I've got a voice change. I can even. I've got like voice changers and everything I can use, man.
All right, well let's continue. I mean, maybe he's gonna.
Well, I've got time for one more here before we go to the break, right?
Please do, yeah. I'm on the edge of my seat, man.
A question: if this tech is available and known about, why is it not used by us here on the surface or shared with us? Well, that's obvious. It's to keep us controlled. There are several reasons, and the main reason we do not share the technology is that our council does not feel that the surface world would be ready for unlimited power. The main reason your governments do not share the military technology with civilians is that there's an oil-based economy to sustain, and you are considered no more than slaves. Now, I want to say right here and now, away from the world of godlike productions and just me talking to you now, folks, just me here. No line from no website. I think we are moving into a post-oil-based world, and it's happening very, very quickly. Now, I know we've all been kind of conditioned to say this is all a bad thing and it's all Agenda 21 and 2030. And absolutely, there's aspects of it that are absolutely evil. But at the same time, this is an opportunity for us to be looking at renewable energies, doing things where we are getting back in some kind of harmony, some kind of unison with the land, our Mother Earth all around us. Join us on the other side, and no more party political broadcasts from Kev. But it's not all grim on the other side. One more hour to go. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, hour number 2, and I've got myself and Jimmy Jeans are here. And we are going down the Antarctic rabbit hole. We are dipping our toe into the madness, the craziness, the sometimes good woo, often incredible woo of the forums. I remember when I was first starting out and I had somebody, one of the webmasters at Before It's News, asking if they could scrape me. I know it sounded a whole lot more personal than what I thought it was, but literally anytime I post on my website, they scrape that article and it gets published on Before It's News. And I used to think this was brilliant until I started to realise just what kind of stuff was also on Before It's News. Now, don't get me wrong, There are nuggets of gold to be found from time to time. But we have to be honest, we have to be logical, and 99% of the stuff you find on forums is fiction, and the other 1% is utter lunacy. But who knows? And I tell you what, like Jimmy said to me when he was describing what he had found on Godlike Productions, there's a lot of stuff in here that definitely connects to other information we've talked about before. And in the end of the day, we're not telling you that this is 100% factual. And in fact, if we were going to LARP on it, we would never have told anyone where it came from. We would have just said, I got a phone call. I got a phone call from a guy going by the name of Deepface. Yes, he goes by the name of Deepface, and he was telling me about his time down in Antarctica, but we don't roll like that. We tell you exactly where it's coming from. And with that said, Jimmy, with that said, I think I'm ready. I've got my cold weather gear on, man. I'm ready to get back down there.
Sweet. Well, I just got myself a hot cup of coffee, but hey, listen, ladies and gentlemen, if nothing else, let's look at this right here, and let's just say this is any information that you could find anywhere.
Yeah.
This is how the LARP gets started. This is how it starts. Is that somebody finds this, and then they see it, and they start to get it out there, and they start to promote it, and it starts to gain steam and gains legs.
You see, the way I see it, Jimmy, is there's people like, there's maybe real info, but mostly probably people like making stuff up, a yarn, right? But then when you use something like Godlike Productions or Before It's News, if you're tier up the LARPing grifting ladder, you could really look at something like a forum, and it would give you the information you need to jump on the trending topics that's going to bring you the clicks that you're after in the first place. Because I know that most of these forums will have that 17th layer. I don't know if I'm going to mention that, but it'll have your Antarctica. It'll have all of the best kind of conspiratorial topics out there. And then from there, potentially these upper tier grifters can come along and go, yep, that's trending today. I'll make a video about that. And like Jimmy says, they'll lift some of the info from there. And that's how it all gets going.
Not only that, but see, if I'm a grifter, okay? If I'm a grifter, and you're the type of brother that believes in ghosts, if I know you believe in ghosts, and I know you do, then I know you believe in things you can't see. And if I know that, then all I have to do is entrance.
But we're getting way off the mark here, dude.
Story.
We're getting away from Antarctica.
But we're grifting, though. We're grifting. Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, we're getting away in the weeds when this is good woo. There's good woo waiting to be.
Let's get into it. Go ahead.
Here. Yes, here we go. Where are we? Right, so this is the next one, right? I don't have a question, more of a request. Have whatever your elders are preparing for start. Have whatever your elders are preparing for start, because if she left recently, as in the 20th century, to go to South Africa, then she must have seen how horrible life is rapidly becoming. Claiming to have secret power over a group of people is either the oldest BS story in the book, or is brought to fruition for all to see. It says, I will not comment on the politics of the surface world. They're irrelevant. You are several billion strong. Stand up for yourselves. Wow. So it says, what's your first name? And his name is Shadrach. I like it. Shadrach is a cool name. Yeah. It says here, cool post. My uncle worked as a physicist in communist Bulgaria. When I visited him there in the 1980s, he related a similar story. Yes, the Eastern nations embraced the science of Nikola Tesla and evolved many advanced technologies as the West suppressed even their brightest, using the Invention Suppression Act of 1951. Another question here, fascinating material. Comment, why do peeps like OP show up and deliver some interesting info and with a few posts and then disappear? Happens all the time here on a forum. Leaves me wondering if the message is legit or just somebody yanking our chains. Well, there's various ways of looking at that. If it's a genuine whistleblower, then you've only got so much information to get out there. And once you've got it out there, it's out there. And maybe that's them happy. Maybe it's off their chest. Like the person hints here. Maybe it is just a game. Maybe people are just making these things up and on to the next one. I don't know, but it definitely gives us a good place to have a conversation. I'm trying to find a good bit of... This looks like a good bit of info.
Yeah, you're coming up on the giant chunk that is really important.
So it says... Plato was very specific about Atlantis' location in the Atlantic. It was a series of islands that sank over a period spanning tens of thousands of years, with the final portion, Poseid, sinking around 9600 BC in the area where Brimini is currently located. You read this one out already, did you not? That's the one you had read, is it not?
Yeah, so that was the guy's comment, and then you're about to get to the guy's answer. So
Okay.
Shadrach is about to answer to that.
Shadrach, and I love that name. Shadrach says, "You're entitled to believe whatever rings most true with you. However, consider this. What Plato wrote was a story, not a history. Atlantis was not a city, nor an island. It is a word used to describe a global, interstellar human civilization that the current age fell from. After the great battle of the last age of man, it was decided that humanity should not have access to the great technologies that brought about the wars and destruction. An artificial satellite was constructed to keep the greatest nation, the Antarctic continent, on the bottom of the Earth. The moon was constructed and placed in orbit in order to alter the axis tilt of the planet, and the hydrosphere, a water layer that used to surround the Earth, was collapsed, and the resulting flooding caused the waters to rise over Antarctica, which then froze due to its new placement at the bottom of the Earth." Your thoughts on that then, Jimmy?
Well, it reminds me of, some of the stuff that David Icke put out a long time ago about the moon and how, it was hollow and, there was people up there, whatever, it's this, I don't know what it is, but it's funny, out of the blue, clear blue sky, here's this explanation. And some people...
I'd take David Icke and all of them out of it, Jimmy. Think of it this way, right? Think of an eclipse. Think of how perfect, right? How perfect that moon is. Like, it's just the exact size, and it's just the right distance away for us to have that, not just slightly, the two cover the other. You're talking about a level of precision that if we're talking about bits of dust and rock coming together with centrifugal forces, and you're telling me that all of those things lined up to randomly gave us that lovely, beautiful, majestic eclipse type light show in the sky? All random. It just happened. It was just bits of rock. They clumped together, Kev. It's okay.
See? Yep. I am Shadrach from Antarctica.
Yep.
I swear, man, see? This to me, so far, I'm still with it. So far, I have not thrown it on the...
I like it because it's got a lot of stuff that we can talk about. And it is what it is. It is what it is. We're not saying it's real. Even the person's not, appealing to us to believe them or forget about it. They've put it out there. And the stuff that we can talk on the side of it, that springs off it, that's what makes KBS, dude.
Hey, so this next one is exactly what I sent you, that Tesla thing, but
let me get a bit too into the science weeds for now when I want to, because this is good stuff, right?
Yeah. I think Victor Schumann is the Schumann that discovered the Schumann resonance, which is something that you talk quite a bit about on the show, and I think it's something that, for me, I would think a human being needs the Schumann resonance to exist. So I would say that the magnetic field and the Schumann resonance that this guy's talking about is definitely a force to be reckoned with, and hopefully we're going to hear some more about it. Did you bounce down to the next one?
I'm just looking for the next ones. Thank you for your patience. 5 stars from me. Can
It's
you
right
tell
the
us?
next one.
Can you
It's
tell
there.
us more about the bad guys? Is the bad guys something to do with the Antarctican people? Did the USA truly walk on the moon's surface? Or how did they went through the Van Allen radiation belt? Actually, quite simply. How old is the Earth? And it goes on to say, and he's going to answer it here, I hope. Number 1. Okay, so the National Socialists from back at that time in World War II did not go to the moon. I do not know much more other than it's artificial. Question 2, did those same bad guys have something to do with the Antarctican people? They are our ancestors. Yes. I will not comment on the bad things that happened, except to say that no one's ancestors are innocent. We chose to move on, that is all. Awesome. So you see, they haven't got any, like, this historic guilt attached to them. You don't see them having to go to, like, all these kind of privileged classes and stuff like that. They've ditched all that. Oh, I want to head for Antarctica. They've got it sussed down there. So it says here, the USA truly walked on the moon, question mark. And it says about the Van Allen radiation belts. And the answer is the NASA program has not sent anything past the Van Allen belts. Oh, so it's hinting at the fact that there was never a moon landing. So how old is the Earth? Question mark. Timeless. Deep. Deep, very deep.
I am your father.
Let's see.
So the thing about it is that it's interesting up until this point because, you know, I mean, the Earth is timeless. That's interesting. How far does the Earth go back? Way back. How far back? Nobody knows. It's timeless. That's a pretty bold statement, I would say.
This is a good one here. It's talking about other programs that have been to the moon. And it says, absolutely other programs, but not public ones. Not to the moon. Not to Mars. You need a localized magnetosphere to counteract the effects of radiation and interstellar solar winds. Only a Haunebu or Hanabu craft offers this protection. Now, if the technology that drives our craft were released, then free energy from the vacuum would replace the oil industry. This is why Hollywood makes the NASA farce. Oh, that's quite interesting. Yep. Talks here about how can humans survive the Van Allen radiation belt. Traversing space is not linear like folks do here on Earth. Almost hinting at the fact that you'd be able to somehow maybe fold space. I don't know. Warp drive. That Hanabu, the fact you've got that magnetic shield around you. That negates it, isn't it? It's like a force field. Think of it that way. Again, we're just speculating, but the device pictured below creates a localized magnetosphere around the craft, which, as long as the craft is aloft, not grounded, can be used for unheard of propulsion techniques. Oh, very interesting. I'm going to send this to the chat room over at TFR, and I say this is interesting because I mentioned earlier on in the show that this kind of physics, this kind of craft we're talking about, do we have an example where we've seen anything like it before? And I said, well, you could look at the Tic Tac video. Now we've got a shape of a thing. It's almost like it's like a toroid almost standing up on an end, though. weird, but if you were to turn that 90 degrees, that'd be kind of tic-tac shaped. Just saying.
Did you click on that link for that picture?
Yep.
Nice.
Okay, so 10 minutes before the break, I'll get the next page up here. We'll see what the next page is saying.
Shadrach.
Yeah,
The
old Shadrach, eh?
The Antarctican. I am Shadrach, the Antarctican.
You see Shadrach, yeah. Where are we?
Come, let me show you the secrets of the universe.
Okay, here's something here before Jimmy goes into more crazy voices. It says, OP, humans visited other star systems, ? What's the maximum speed that these so-called Hanabu crafts can go? Let me explain something very important. Earth is the creator planet. All ET civilizations began as human civilizations on Earth and have colonized other systems. They adapt their bodies for the specific needs of their local environment, so they appear alien. And it says Hanabu, they can go at an unlimited speed. They don't travel through space. They create negative space that sucks the craft into it. Almost like some kind of maybe wormhole type. I'm just trying to think for people to picture it that way, but not outside of the dimensions we know. Literally interdimensional. Call that other dimension that, like it says here, the negative, call it the dark energy, whatever you want to call it, you know?
Yeah, because in that first salvo, the first little bit, he just mentioned the negative space generator just briefly. So maybe this is tied into the negative space generator.
We've got some good stuff here, Jimmy. I've hit the mother load now. So it says reference the Greys. Now the Greys are a type of artificial, biological, muscular and electrical system. They're a type of remote control robot that is made of meat, an avatar, a drone with a practical shape. Oh, I love it. Absolutely love it. It says, we have learned that when you travel interdimensionally, you do not take your body. A body that is best matching for the conditions of your being will materialize at your location upon arrival. Now that's a bit hard to explain, but bodies are not heaps of meat that are evolved over time. Almost hinting, well, you know, in fact, there's something here about it here. They're a direct result of DNA responding to the local field and manifesting the best form for that field. Hope that makes sense. Well, I'll tell you what you can say. And DNA has almost hyperdimensional qualities to it because of the quadrant coding system. Not ones and zeros, but ones, zeros, twos and threes, if you want to think of it that way. But when you start encoding all of them and the maths that surrounds that, Jimmy, again, that maths is hyperdimensional type maths. You hear of torsion and things like that coming into conversations when you're looking at the twisting of the DNA as well. And there's a part of science that talk about the holographic principle. Like everything, the entire universe, holographic. Doesn't mean we're not real, doesn't take away from the life experiences we have. But if there's a holographic nature to it, right, then maybe it starts to be a bit more acceptable that indeed there could be another version of you waiting at the other end. As mad as that seems, but if it's a hologram and everything's information, I'm just saying.
Well, yeah, because it makes sense that when my energy field comes into the earth, I come here as Jimmy, and I'm born. It's like my DNA, it goes beyond what goes on here on Earth. So my DNA, wherever my energy goes, my DNA will materialize me a vessel to utilize in that environment. As it sounds to me like what they're saying. So, for example, when these grays come in or whatever, they're just coming in as that gray, you know, as a sort of like an avatar from someplace else. But I mean, we're also doing the same thing when we're being born. And I think it's interesting because, and just recently, over the last couple of years, the bloodline idea has been almost replaced with conversations that have been being had about these different DNA lines. And that seems to be a really touchy subject. So this really makes a lot of sense, Kev. Please continue. I'm on the edge of my seat.
No, this is really good stuff. Really, really weird. I'm going to come back to this stream of things here. I'm loving this. I'm glad we went down this road tonight. So it says here, questions again, right? Does the Antarctic nation accept civilian visitors? 2, assuming they do, when people from the surface join your nation, is it a one-way ticket? Do they simply become missing persons here on the surface, or have their accidents faked, etc.? Number 3, was it political power structure, or what is the political power structure of society there? Number 4, what is the main language used? So we come to the actual answers. It says, do you have machinery? Does it convert electrical energy into physical motion? And he answered yes. However, our technology is based on vortex implosion techniques, not explosion. Do you have magnets, or do you use magnets in motors? What we use, or we use what you would call meta material. Now that's interesting, right? Because To the Stars Academy had a rollout of what they called meta material not long ago. It says here that they are not just magnetic, but incorporate aspects of electrical conductivity, gravitic, and magnetic properties. Does this energy need to be regulated? Absolutely. It could cleave the entire planet. Does this energy need to be stored? No, it's freely available from the ether. And of course we can look at Nikola Tesla and various other physicists along the way that have been tapping into that. What do you use for storage devices? Ha ha ha. No danger. Crystals that are growing in a vril field that is specifically tuned to the energy we wish to harness. Now I'm laughing, because I think it was when we had Felicia on the show on Monday. We were talking about crystals there, and I was talking about how maybe everything's maybe even stored, like a library of Alexandria, Jimmy, you know? Weird. How do you transmit energy to devices once collected? Using quantum entanglement, yep, or standing wave coupling. Do you consume monoatomic gold? Yes. This allows our physical body to directly interface with technology on a cellular level. So we hear and we learn in this one little part here that we're talking about a cybernetic type breakaway civilization, because they're talking about their bodies interacting, directly interfacing with technology on a cellular level. Now, Jimmy, before you take it, I'm not somebody that immediately balks at the idea of this if it's done right and there's ways and it's advantageous, okay? But we're going to be on the break. And I want you to hold that thought for when we come back, because the music's going to kick in just a moment. I want to take this chance to remind people, stay tuned. Because after today's show, wow, this has been a head melter. But we're going to have Lockie with Quantum Connections. But we'll be back on the other side. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're moving into the final part of today's Kev Baker show with me, your host, Kev Baker, and we've got Jimmy Jeans here as well. Jimmy can be found on his YouTube channel. Jimmy, let people know where they can hang out with the maddest man on YouTube. And that takes some doing.
I know. Well, now I'm on my secret, double secret channel. It's Into the Microcosm with Jimmy Jean, and make sure you say Strike Zone after that, because I have a strike on my main channel.
You and the naughty step, man. Have you fallen foul to the algorithm?
The algorithm, you know what, man? I took the algorithm out. I partied with the algorithm. I spent a bunch of money.
Dude. You're the one person you've got to be the person who, for me, you literally purposely go toe-to-toe with the algorithm. Like, you step into digital space and you say, oh, algorithm, come here. I'm going to throw content at you and I'm going to see what sticks. I'm going to see what gets by you. It's like some kind of mad judo going on between you and the algo, man.
You know, I spent so much money on drinks for that algorithm. I bought that algorithm so many drinks down at the bar. I thought everything was okay. But the algorithm just used me. You know, just used old Jimmy, tossed me out and threw me a strike. And not only that, when he threw me the strike, then to add insult to injury, some video I made like 2 years ago was on there. And there was some little chunk from 1979 that somebody had a piece in there from a documentary they didn't like. And they gave me a copyright strike too. So now I don't get to come back till December 25th.
Pesky buggers, right? Anyway, I'm going to ask you again, right? Because this is where we finished up the last time. We kind of finished up by finding out that these people, the Antarcticans, they're actually a cybernetic society. What's your thoughts on this, Jimmy, before we go further on it?
Yeah, because I was hearkening back to the original salvo up there where he was talking about his great-great-grandmother having these abilities that she at first were natural and then later on involved technology. And so this must have been, you know, there must have been a moment in time when these people from Germany that came here, there must have been a moment in time where they advanced enough to understand the technology and to move into this next wave of being able to communicate. So it's an interesting, I mean, this is, you know, like I said, I'm on the edge of my seat. I mean,
it's
so
pretty
far.
cool, man. Pretty cool. So it says, can you transmute water into anything else? We can transmute any matter. All matter is simply compressed hydrogen. Do you think, or do you drink anything other than water? Shadrach, beer and wine is abundant. Awesome. Is there any element that you have that is not on the periodic table? Yes. There are several hundred unknown to you. There are multiple levels within higher vibrational frequencies. So it says, here's the next one from Shadrach. Let's see. He's just quoting what he said before. Let me see. Shadrach. Okay, so, no, that's not much of a line of thought there. He says every human has an electromagnetic detector in the center of your skull that can be used to communicate with one another. Now, in the shows that we've done with our Australian friends, big shout out to Luna, Donnie, Ken, Jess, they talk about the bush telegraph. And when they came on the show and they were talking about the bush telegraph, I was thinking, what's that all about? A telephone out in the outback? No, literally, bush telegraph is where you can sync my mind to your mind to my mind. Like the whole kind of mind melding that kind of goes on in Star Trek, but only this is real. This is a real thing, and again, this is why it's important for us to be in tune with the planet. Like Jimmy mentioned the Schumann resonance earlier on. It does all tie in. And once you're in tune with the planet, then it only makes sense that only then does your machine, your body, your mind start to work more powerfully. But it says it's called the pineal gland. Discussed earlier many times on this forum. Hi Shadrach, I am Dean. Have you ever attempted to intervene in the surface world affairs? At what level and what sort of contact do you have with any of the world's various institutions? Nice to virtually meet you, Dean. We do not interfere unless the event would cause an extinction-level event or affect our nation. For instance, you will often notice our craft disabling nuclear devices. We will not allow nuclear warfare. Now, I have watched a stunning documentary about UFOs and nuclear sites, nuclear power stations, nuclear weapons tests. It's quite anomalous when you look at the statistics of how many of these UFOs pop up around these places, around silos. Rendlesham Forest, for goodness sake. I mean, nobody even knew that the Americans were storing nuclear warheads there at the time because it was against every kind of pact that had been signed, the Warsaw Pact and NATO and everything else. There wasn't meant to be anything there. But that's where, in 1980, we had our most significant UFO sighting ever. And it came out that, voila, just like I'm saying, these UFOs, they didn't pick out RAF Bentwaters just because it was there. No, it's because potentially it was housing nuclear warheads at the height of the Cold War. Now, the story goes that the next day there was like footage taken directly from the UK to a German Air Force base, and what happened from there, nobody knows. I'm not saying this proves what's been saying here. I'm just saying anecdotally, it fits. So it says upgrades.
I mean, and so, that's the thing whenever anyone's ever discerning information too, is the thing is like you're reading through something and how many abstract bits of information are you holding in your head that also justify some of the things that you're reading, yet you're hearing, and you immediately start aligning. So you're saying, oh yeah, man, this resonates with something, and this resonate. I mean, wait till we get to this next little chunk, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, this is an intense piece that's coming up here from Shadrach, the Antarctican.
Here we go. So it says upgrades. The sun is a plasma anode cathode. See, I'm already in love. You had me at plasma anode because this is tying in with an electric universe. Which, listen, I ain't no physicist. Damn. I was trying to help my son with his electronics kind of homework the other day. I ain't even like an amateur crap person at electronics. But from what I've seen brainy people talking about, like people who are intelligent, that electric universe makes a whole heap of sense. And not only that, you can recreate things in the lab. Yeah, you can actually recreate things that you see in space. Go figure. And that's what science is meant to be about. But it says the sun is a plasma anode cathode that is tied to the Earth's core. And the singularity, or central sun. The sun and central sun project electrokinetic energy vortexes on which DNA molecules align, forms, and functions. Your body and DNA are directly linked via a type of electromagnetic connection to the sun and central sun. And as the central sun sends out a signal reaching us now, the solar system gets an upgrade, as do the creatures. The central sun is intelligent, and it uses its projections as nodes through which to gather more data and experiences. So this hints at an upgrade going on now. So we keep coming down. I'll look for... Here we go. Admiral Byrd, Jimmy.
We're each projections of the central sun. The central sun. Maybe all these references to the sun we've been seeing. Maybe it doesn't mean the sun in the sky. Maybe it means the central sun.
Well, it says, Admiral Byrd, we need to get into this because
please.
Admiral Byrd's journals are interesting, but have an included element of fallacy. He and his troops were indeed in the Antarctic nation. They were rescued by one of our scout teams. Yes, most who are familiar with Tesla should understand the basics of this technology. It is at least 100 years old at this time. It's simply been suppressed. There are many surface dwellers that power their homes and farms using technology in secret. Reich, Schoberger, Tesla, dark nights of science.
So Schauberger is Schumann, but that's his real German name is Schauberger.
Schumann's a German name, so why did he swap one German name for another German name?
Not sure. I thought of that myself, and I thought to myself, maybe it's because there's something associated around his name was on some list or something somewhere. He was on the list.
Okay, I found more woo here. Right. Says we live indefinitely, sorry. Our bodies do not deteriorate due to time. We are not immortal, but are still accidents. But bar that, we live indefinitely, right? Let me read that again, right? We live indefinitely. Our bodies do not deteriorate due to time. We are not immortal. There are still accidents, but bar that, we live indefinitely. We use an entangled sheet of standing wave Tesla energy to transmit matter from point to point on the surface. The machines are simply tuned to the same quantum frequency. Now, think about that. A sheet, just think of like an electromagnetic layer lying over the top of everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in this, what it's trying to say is, because it's entangled, I could sit here and manipulate one of those particles on that layer that goes round the planet, and depending on who it is and where it is I'm trying to get to, Jimmy here, he's going to see his little particle that's entangled with it immediately, instantaneously, the minute I go playing with it, touching it, communicating through it. Entangled comms. Interesting. Doesn't mean that, again, me and Jimmy ain't here telling you, whoa, we have found the real whistleblower. But the things that it brings up, the things we can point to, the topics that it gets going in the mind, this is what KBS is all about, because in the end of the day, no matter to me or Jimmy what you think, what you believe, just so long as we can make you think about things, maybe in a way you didn't think before. You don't have to agree with us. In fact, it's better if you don't, because then you might even start challenging your own beliefs as well. So it says here.
What if there was like some lore around this information, like, there was some construction site over there and the guy was bashing through the wall and he found these scrolls that were written on parchment paper.
This doesn't even need that. This has got enough woo attached to it, Jimmy.
That's what I mean. It's like the Colburn Bible or something, man. It's incredible.
It says we use what you would call UFOs for long-distance space travel. Hanabu or Honabu flying disc craft. Our craft use electrogravitic vortices to produce a localized space-time field that envelops the craft. They are capable of traveling through atmosphere, water, and space. Hence, unidentified submergible objects. There you go. They are capable of vibrating at high enough energy to pass through solid matter as well. What is the purpose of life? To create new universes. I would say then to add to the already vast multiverse. That'd be an even cooler way of putting it. Each human sees the universe in a new way, and the electromagnetic energy of that observation is uploaded into the universal etheric field as an original observation. It's a giant AI learning machine, and your body is one of the manifested electromagnetic forms. You are the timeless observer driving a body. Your DNA forms on and responds to the fields and creates a body that corresponds with the best form to have at that time. You have no junk DNA. So just like an AI would, like Cliff High, when he had the web bot. Remember he used to like send out little clone copies, little crawlers that would go out there and analyze what people are writing on forums like this and other places as well. All little versions of itself. It's suggesting that we ourselves are extensions of that AI. We're more kind of specific. We're down here to record things with our webcams, with our microphones as well. In fact, yeah, we've got our microphones there. And all of that data, Jimmy, all of that data, just like anything on the internet, anything that's out there analysing data, we ourselves are just raw data collectors, man. How cool's that? Who knew it? Who knew it? Just data eaters, that's it.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I don't know, dude.
We do know, though. We do know because the concept of God is that we're creations and we come from God, and each one of us is completely unique and has never been part of the what's going on before. And our experience that we have, it goes back to God.
Jimmy, wouldn't like I'm with you. Let me go with you on this, right? I've had this thought before, right? We talk about artificial intelligence, right? Wouldn't one way of thinking about God, whatever that is, we don't have the ability to even conceptualize it, I don't think. But wouldn't that be the purest form of raw intelligence? Like just intelligence, not artificial. We came from intelligence, right? Because you look at the DNA, you look at what we're talking about it, you look at the coding, and even away from what we're hearing here about it knows to grow the optimum body, etc. I mean, that in itself, you can't tell me with everything that DNA encodes and all the math in there that it's just random. That hints at something divine, whether it's a guy in a throne with a beard, whether it's an intelligence, whether it's a programmer, whatever it is, dude. It's something's got it going, right?
Well, and the other thing is too, man, from the representation of the sun and the Son of God, if the big sun in the sky is the main sun, and the central sun is where he's saying that everything goes back to, right? So the central sun is some sort of a processing unit.
Well, you
with a
think,
direct
think as well,
electrical
Jimmy, right?
connection.
Think about the grounding we talk about, right? You're outside, the sun's going in through your head. You've got this other energy coming up through your feet.
Yes.
See what I'm saying? Yeah.
Shadrach, the Antarctic.
Oh, Shadrach is nailing it, dude. I'm actually going to put this show as guest starring Shadrach. I am. I'm going to put like a blacked out face, somebody anonymous, make it look super, super cool. Don't need to. This is good stuff, Jimmy.
Yeah, man.
So we carry on here. I'm going to look for where Shadrach's talking again. Here we go. As we stated before, we know scientifically that the region, or this region of the universe, follows a set of physical rules. Without those rules, the local universe, atoms, stars, etc., so everything from the subatomic right up to the macro, the biggest you can imagine, would not exist. The rules of physics are based on the central star, or black hole for each space-time region. This energy source sends electrocymatic waves that compress the local ether into what is commonly called matter. Gravity is a byproduct of stretching of space-time ether as the energy condenses to form matter. Take a blanket and lay it flat. This is space-time. Now take 2 points and twist them to a point. You will notice that there is now more space-time compressed into the vertical space, and the 2 points are also closer together. Gravity. The ether is now the ether is a non-compressible fluid. Matter are 3D vortices caused by a type of supercymatics from the central sun. So basically, yes, reality is projected from our central star. Damn, dude. says, I live on Earth. The subdivision of countries are simply to keep you from uniting. No weapon formed against me may prosper. It is my purpose to assist in the release of ancient technologies and the revival of the golden age on the surface. And this is where it gets super woo and into the real world, because away from this website, away from anything on the internet, in the real world, the physical world, wherever it's being projected from, there is a turning of the age. The age is changing, and we're here to witness it. Whether we're here as the observers or not, we're here for it. The greatest ride in the universe. And the people that run the planet, they know that we're in one of these times right now. That's why they're so desperate to make sure that they're in control on the other side. This golden age, it's where we need to be getting back to, not their golden age, our golden age. That's where we want to be going. So we'll come back here. Oh, this is a good one. We use the PPP, the cannabis, for many things. Thousands of acres are grown annually in Antarctica. Oh, I'm there. It's a primary food source. And the hemp seed, once sprouted, has all the nutrients a human body requires. Absolutely correctly, 100% true. Truly a superfood. The plant matter and oils can be used for virtually everything, from contemporary clothing to furniture and paper and beyond. There's been cars made out of hemp. You can do everything with it. It was poised to replace timber as the primary pulp for paper, so a racist smear campaign was run against it. Look it up. In addition, the human brain evolved cannabinoid receptors for a reason. This plant and humans are meant to work together. And I find that when I have that symbiotic PPP relationship, this spacesuit works a whole lot better. That's all I can say, Jimbo.
I hear you. And you know what? This idea about the cymatics is really interesting because we've seen examples of cymatica where you hit something with a frequency, say like 432 hertz, and it creates a flower of life pattern, and you hit it with a 440 and it creates this really deteriorated, ugly pattern. And it's interesting because maybe it's how they moved that stuff in Egypt. Is how they moved that stuff was with these types of ideas, man. These types of technologies that were utilizing frequencies and harmonics, and to move items that are large, just have them floating in the air, basically make them weightless. I'm
just laughing because our good friend ZX, he's like, "Oh, come on. This is nonsense. It's like any good sci-fi. They're just sprouting things off you." And listen, dude, I know where you're coming from, but at the same time, I think it's made for some really good conversation tonight. And I don't know about anyone else. When Jimmy brought it to me yesterday, I totally balked at the idea. I'm like, "Oh, come on, Jimmy. You know, forums. Come on, Jim." And then today, when the guest cancelled, I thought, well, it's good. It's Antarctica. There's a bit of Atlantis to it. We'll go there. I've had good shows with the doc about that kind of stuff, and I tell you what, I'm glad I did. And at the end of the day, I declared many's a time where we're getting this from. I didn't at any point do the kind of blue chicken thing and say, "Listen, I got taken out of my bed one night, and you won't believe this." And usually when somebody says you won't believe this, you won't. But no, I didn't get given this by a bunch of like multicolored hippopotamus on Neptune. Nothing like that happened. It's from a forum. It is what it is. And I like how it does link in. You know, whoever's written this, whether it's true or not, it's a damn fine piece of woo because it links into so many real topics. And here's the problem. And this is the more serious thing. Away from this story. You see, this is what is at the center of every good LARP.
That's right.
Information that's got just enough factual stuff that you can not even totally prove, but you can relate to. Then it like Jimmy says, it convinces you, it seduces you in more. And then it's the stuff that's a bit more out there that, hey, The guy proved himself 2 out of 3 times already. I'll go with it. And that's, ladies and gentlemen, that's the hallmark, the template of every good LARP. Yeah, there's a story in there, but it's the bells and whistles you need to watch out for. And Jimmy, this has been a multi-dimensional, multi-layered show. Awesome tonight. Because great woo, great info, thank you. And not only that, at the same time, without anyone knowing, and I kind of realised about the second segment we were doing, that we would finish off the show by saying, for every bit as good as this is, beware the stories that sound like this. Because these are the ones that you end up falling hook, line and sinker for. Jimbo, it's been a blast.
Hell yeah. This has been a good one, Kev. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, I've loved it, dude. I've loved it. You see how it all comes together on KBS? I'll be back tomorrow with Scotty Lopez, toe to toe with the Wokies and the clowns out there in the Asylum World 2020. And of course, Freaky Friday just round the corner. Stay tuned for Lucky coming up with Quantum Connections, and wherever you are, make it TFR, didn't touch that dial, and always use discernment.